A majority of our problems, like restlessness, anxiety, they are caused by what Ramesh called the horizontal flow of thinking mind. Now, horizontal flow of thinking is something like this, that a thought comes up. Let's say a thought about some past failure, or a thought about an unsuccessful relationship. And that thought over time translates into thinking. So, what happens is that one thought gets chained to another thought. And this is how the thinking propagates, which creates anxiety, restlessness, and so on. And this mind, the ego identified with this kind of a mind, creates suffering. But Ramesh also spoke about another mind, which is the vacant mind or the silent mind. Now, this mind does not associate with the horizontal chain of thinking. This mind brings up the awareness spontaneously that the thinking is happening, and in that moment, the thinking gets cut off. So one feels a sense of immediate relief from anxiety or tension or whatever was bothering them. And all that this mind does is it simply witnesses the passing of flow of thoughts. Now the thoughts may still arise, but the thing is that the witnessing mind does not differentiate. It does not discriminate between thoughts. So it does not label the thought as a good thought or a bad thought. It does not label it as as a useful thought or a useless thought. It simply witnesses the thought for what it is. So you see, there is a complete acceptance of the passage of flow of thoughts. And it is natural that in such a case the thinking does not propagate for long. It just gets cut off. And then there is an immediate psychological relief. And this mind, which is also called the silent mind, this mind actually brings out the highest creativity. It awakens the intuitive faculty of the mind. So, when the thinking mind is gone, one becomes immersed in the moment or now, and our actions become spontaneous. So we act and react according to the situation based on our present understanding without too much over analyzing things. And that sort of brings relief. That cuts down the suffering. The problem is that over analysis, overthinking about a particular situation, that creates an expenditure on the mind. Because everything eventually is energy. Every thought is an energy. So if a thought arises in consciousness and the mind sticks to it, then mind has to pay the price of sticking to that thought. And that mind is nothing but the ego, which claims that I am the owner of the thought. Now, I'll give you an example of how this happened with me. I remember that during my early years, I was about to appear for an interview with this very senior person. The CTO of the company was in front of me, and he was supposed to take my interview. Now, I was quite nervous at that time. And that person, when he started interviewing me, he would not ask me any technical questions or questions related to my field. He started asking me random questions, and I did not have the answer. So I started becoming more and more nervous. Then, at some point, what happened is that the thinking got abruptly cut off. that whole energy got cut off, and there was an immediate, instant surrender to that particular situation. So there was a relief in my mind that, okay, maybe this is not the job for me and this is not going to work out. And immediately there was a cutoff. And it is not dissociation, it is a state of complete awareness, total awareness to what is, to the situation that is happening in that instance. And the simple acceptance of that brought about so much relief. In fact, I was not at all concerned what that person was saying about me, or whether I was being judged or not. All of that concern just dissolved. And fortunately, I got the job. Somehow I think they saw something good, and I got the job that time. But had I been too involved in that situation, had I overanalyzed it, I would have just tortured myself. What will happen? What if I don't get the job? What will my parents think? What will my friends think? How will I manage my house? How will I take care of my family? All those, all those are thoughts which flow as horizontal thinking. The witnessing mind simply cuts off that involvement. So a characteristic of the thinking mind is involvement, as opposed to the characteristic of a working mind, which is engagement. So a working mind is a fully engaged mind. So when you do an art, say when you make an art, you are fully engaged and immersed in the art. You're not concerned about what people will think about your art. You have no, you're not bothered about all that. You're just doing your best, giving your best. So the highest creativity flows through you. You become intuitive. If you're a painter, you intuitively think of situations, the entire scene, the colors. In other words, you become the art. So that is your working mind. And that happens in the absence of thinking mind. So absence of thinking mind is actually the vacant mind, or the silent mind, as Ramesh Balsekar called.